Good morning and good evening and good afternoon from whatever time you're watching and from wherever you're watching. Today, I want to talk about, actually, I did this call before. It was 3 mistakes of unexplained expectation. And I want to talk about this real quick because for me, when I speak to people or in a relationship, I'm expecting them to do certain things. You know, being married for 22 years, I've had expectation in my marriage of things to happen, but when I don't communicate those expectations, there's a major breakdown that happens. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the time that it takes actually to sit down and really explain what you want. I want to talk about the time that to reinforce that, and I also want to talk about the ownership when things are not really broken down, not communicated the right way. But first, before I go into it, let's talk about the breakdown. Let's talk about our expectation. When you are expecting without inspecting what you're expecting, I know that's a kind of tongue twister, right? When you are not looking at what you are expecting someone to do, is it realistic? Can they really do it? Are you holding on to a standard that's beyond a human being standard? In relationship, we tend to make people our savior, make people our gods, really. Like they have to be so perfect. And what we're doing is we're basically looking for the unmet needs that we had growing up, the things that we didn't get growing up. We take all those baggages and we bring it into a relationship. So if you had a really bad relationship with your mother or your father, what you do is you bring all those baggages and you expect your spouse to not be that person. As a matter of fact, we say things like, I'm gonna go look for someone that is not like my father, not like my mother, definitely the opposite. And you know what we tend to do after a while? We tend to look at the person and go, wait a minute, they are like it. They have characteristics like it because we did not clarify our expectation. When you don't clarify your expectation, you have your subconscious mind going, and what you expected as a child, you're going to want to expect that. You want to create that expectation within a relationship. And the bad thing about that, it puts a lot of pressure on the other person, doesn't know what the heck you're doing, what the heck is happening, because they feel the pressure to perform. And they probably feel not good enough. They feel like, my gosh, no matter what I do, it's not enough. So this vicious cycle of having not clear expectations, seeing it, expecting, where is that expectation come from? Where was my unmet need? And am I actually trying to meet a need that wasn't met from my parents, from my mother, from my father into this relationship? If you really think about it, if you really write down, someone tell me, a weak ink is better than the strongest memory. Think about that. The weakest ink is better than the strongest memory. That means write it down. Write down what are your expectations in a relationship before you even get into a relationship. Write down what are you expecting from your spouse, you're expecting from your children, you're expecting from yourself. Write it down. Because if you haven't written it down, guess what? You're going by memory. Our memory, we forget a lot of things and we get emotional. We expect more than ourselves. We put ourselves in such a higher level of expectation that is literally impossible for us to fulfill that expectation. Then we beat ourselves up. So that's one. The weakest ink is better than the strongest memory. Okay? So write it down. Second thing, be responsible and accountable. Be responsible for your role because you have a role. What is your role? Your role is to communicate clearly. Your role is to communicate your expectation clearly. Your role is to be graceful. Your role is to go back and seeing what's going on. What have I not communicated? Your role is for you to improve your communication skills. So I get to learn from everyone. I get to learn from my wife. I get to learn from my team, the people that I deal with at work, because you see, a lot of times we compartmentalize things. We say, okay, well, this is where I am at home. Well, I'm really good at communication at work. It's just not home. No, If you value something, you're going to put time, energy into that. So if you value whatever relationship you're in, you're going to put time, energy into that in order for you to increase your skill set. So like that you could be better at communicating. But if you think that you're already good at something, you will not work at it. The third thing is inspect what you expect. I talked about that. So a friend of mine told me in construction, what they do is they measure twice, cut once. I thought that was amazing. Measure twice, cut once. That would make sense, because if you cut a piece of wood and it's not really the right piece of wood, you have to get another one. That's expensive. Think about that though. Measure twice, cut once. You may want to measure where you're going. Keep track of who you're attracting. Keep track of what you're expecting. Keep track of the people you are attracting to your life, and keep track of what is going on. Keep track of the way you communicate. Keep track of the pattern, the same people, the same breakdown in communication, the same people being disappointed, the same people feeling frustrated. And then you're gonna see all that happening. If you are being responsible, if you're inspecting what you are expecting, double check it. So if you are double checking it without blaming and complaining and pointing the finger, you will get better. And it's so hard. It's hard. It is, because it's just, you got to be humble. You got to be humble. Yeah, I had to take that humble pie. But what happens in the end, there's this freedom that happens. There's this freedom to be able to communicate, become more confident. People around you become more confident. People around you become more secure, and you become a safe place, versus not being a safe place and expecting people to just understand you and like they're wrong and you don't have to change. That breaks down so many communication level and so many intimate relationships, and you'll find yourself alone and by yourself. So again, number one, write it down. The weakest ink is better than the strongest memory. Write it down, be clear. Number two, be responsible and accountable. Be responsible. You're 100% responsible for your reaction to your lack of communication, your reaction of your expectation not being met, right? And sometimes it's control as well. We try to control people to do what we want to do. That's called manipulation. It's not motivation. Motivation is you're inspiring, you're empowering people to do something, to grow, right? And then lastly, inspect what you expect. Inspect it, double check yourself up, right? From the neck up. You know, I heard that. But really check, be self-aware of your pattern. That's my time. Well, thank you so much for watching my videos. Please do subscribe if you like the video, and please share it. And also click on the bell button there so you can be notified with any new videos that I come out with. Thank you.